Historical Society on BCTV is supported in part by the Highlands at Wyomissing.
Hello and welcome to the monthly program of the Historical Society of Berks County. I'm your host, George M. Miser IX, President of the Historical Society of Berks County and publisher of the Historical Review of Berks County, the Society's quarterly magazine in print since October 1935. Not incidentally, most back issues of the review are available from the late 1930s to the present time. It should be noted that this program is telecast live on the first Wednesday of each month at 7. It repeats this Friday night at 10, Saturday at 6, and Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Welcome all to our October 1st, 2008 program. Seated beside me is my co-host, Gloria Jean Miser. Beside her is Sime B. Bertolett, the Society's Executive Director. And beside Sime is Joshua Blay, Society Curator and Associate Director. Welcome all.
Evening, George.
Evening. Evening.
The Society's Museum, Library, Gift Shop, and Exhibition Hall are open Tuesday through Saturday from 9 to 4. The shop is fully stocked with Reading and Berks histories by a variety of present-day and old-time authors. A number of unusual pottery pieces by Lester Breininger and pottery items by other local potters are now in stock. Remember, the Historical Society's gift shop has a large inventory of Reading and Berks County histories, new and pre-owned. As of today, 4 o'clock, there are a number of passing scene books, including some of the rare editions.
We remind viewers that for $40 a year, you can be one of us, a member of the Historical Society of Berks County. Membership in the Society includes our prize-winning quarterly magazine, the Historical Review of Berks County. Membership includes unlimited use of the museum and library. Incidentally, family memberships, all living in the same house, are $50 a year.
And while we're on the subject of memberships, we remind you that Berks Community Television is now observing its 31st anniversary. Is a rare survivor and a tough venue and a unique entity in that it's interactive. You are encouraged to call in with questions and comments.
Why not salute BCTV for all the great shows it provides to Reading and Berks, and send a check for $30 for a year's membership. Mail your check to BCTV, 645 Penn Street, Reading 19601. Remember, time passes, but operating expenses never go away.
Now I'd like to take a minute to talk a little bit about an exciting event that happens generally every year, and that is the release of the latest volume of the Passing Scene Volume 16. We're expecting delivery. George is hard at work on it right now, but we're expecting delivery around mid-November, so it'll be ready for Christmas giving, and you'll be able to, order it early enough so that you can have enough copies to give all your friends and family. As in the case of all the previous editions, it's going to be the same large format, hardbound, 272 pages of on heavy gloss stock, over 300 photographs, and this year there's over 4,000 entries in the index. This is quite large. We're looking at the same price as last year, regardless of the fact that printing costs have gone up. It's still going to be $45. But unlike other years, this time it's a one printing and one printing only. 2,500 volumes are going to be printed, and that's it. So when they're gone, they're gone. So I advise everyone who's interested to make sure you get your reservations in early for your issue of the Passing Scene Volume 16. Remember, no reprints, 2,500 copies only, so make your orders soon. You can call Gloria at the Historical Society and order your issue of the Passing Scene at 610-375-4375.
We're excited to announce that a special 100-page section will be featured that contains fun and facts and lots of illustrations about 25 prominent Berks villages. Each village and town sketch lists the prominent people who lived and worked there in the late 1930s, such as the butcher, barber, postmaster, teacher, restaurant operator, craftsman, mechanics, and the local millers, store and hotel proprietors, etc.
Hundreds of people are included in this special section, which highlights the towns and villages of Alleghenyville, Amityville, Bally, Burnville, Bethel, Blandon, Centerport, Fritztown, Geigertown, Huff's Church, Lenhartsville, Mertztown, Millersburg, Moulton, Mooresville, Morgantown, Mount Pleasant, Pleasantville, New Jerusalem, Pine Forge, Pricetown, Stonersville, Stroudsburg, Strausstown, Virginville, and Westnersville, better known to most people as Stony Run.
In all, there are 25 towns and villages that are discussed in detail. Viewers who grew up in any of the aforementioned places, especially in the 20s, the 30s, and 40s, will find familiar names and faces. More than likely, many will find references to relatives, friends, and people they'll remember from childhood. Here are some samples of the Village Ramble illustrations that will appear.
Okay, now I'd like to talk a little bit, now I think we're a little bit ahead of ourselves on that. We don't need the pictures
look like
yet. No, it doesn't. And as a matter of fact, I'm not sure that that one's particularly correct either.
No, that's okay. That's the page that introduces the story on Burnville, which has an interesting subhead, as I recall. Something about Burnville has no need for police, and the firemen use the fire hall to show movies on Saturday nights. Can we have a little bit of a close-up there so we can talk about the illustrations? This section, by the way, runs about 108 pages. And the story was written by Robert Bamford, who was a farmer in Bern Township. And his brother was the former mayor of Reading, Jim Bamford. Now, there are some pictures that we might recognize. At the top, we see the old Eagle Hotel. In Burnville, it says it's been around for 100 years, at that time anyhow. Ray Schaefer and the Burgess Oscar Miller. And we have George Miller's barber pole there on the left-hand side. You know, that's a particularly good drawing of Senator Ruth, who was also Reverend Ruth. Served a number of churches in the general area in and around Burnville. I'm sure many people will remember Reverend Ruth, or Senator Ruth. He was very highly regarded. I believe there in the lower left, I believe is that the fire hall? Sort of looks like it. I don't know if we can bring that up a little bit or not. Yeah. Community building houses the Burnville Community Fire Company #1 and also the movie theater. On the left side, those two doors were used for the fire apparatus, and on the right-hand side was where you entered to go to the movies. And you know, many years ago, quite a number of the old-time firehouses or engine houses used the large social hall for movies. Let me see, the Robizonia did that, Burnville did that, Newmanstown did that, Richland, which is right across the border, they had movies in their theater. As a kid, I used to sit in my grandmother's front lawn and watch the movies because in the summertime they'd open the doors for ventilation, and I was right there to watch the movie from her yard. Anyhow, that gives you an idea of some of the Burnville pictures. So we can hop to the next one.
Bring your own popcorn, George?
I have it out in the car. Always carry popcorn. The Virginville story is very funny. Apparently, a number of the ladies in the town were really avid card players, and it caused a bit of consternation with some of the men because the wives were playing a great deal in the way of cards. Let me see, Virginville. There in the lower center of the screen, lower left center, is that unusual what they call a tunnel. Or a cave. It really wasn't a cave, it was a tunnel for a railroad that never materialized. There was another one of those up on the grounds of the TB Sanatorium up in Hamburg, which is now whatever, the Hamburg State School or whatever it's being used for today. They built a number of those caves, and Joshua, that one up there, Windsor Castle, there's a huge cave at Windsor Castle that was never completed. It's actually down in a hole in some farmer's field, and it goes back very considerably. It says only tunnel in Berks County. Well, that really isn't true. But that's very visible from the lower end of town. Handsomely built. Tracks were to go through there, and the line was never actually laid, but the tunnel still is there. So I know of 3 of those tunnels in the county. Maybe there were more. In the upper right-hand corner are some of the town characters, because when they went to each and every village, they interviewed the most interesting people. The hotel proprietor, the car mechanic is there. Let me see, who is that? Can you read those, Gloria Jean?
Robert Doyle.
Robert Doyle, station agent.
Yeah, they had a train depot there.
John F. Boyer, retired tinsmith.
Charles
Kaufman. Kaufman, storekeeper and postmaster. Walter Weigel, mill boss. And Myers, Balth, sort of cut off there.
Oh, the garage man.
It's great to have some young eyes on the set.
Yes, And I think I have one more to give people an idea. This group of pictures introduces each story, and then the stories run 3, 4, 5 pages each, following the introductory page that you see there.
George, might they have meant that was the only train tunnel?
Well, there were actually some other ones.
Were there? Oh, okay.
But they were never
they were all
used
part
for
of that
an
line that was never actually. There was a huge tunnel. Well, that's a whole other story. Up.
Well, tell us.
That's a very interesting story. There's a huge tunnel that was used for a while, and then they, I guess they needed a bigger tunnel, and they laid the tracks outside the tunnel up there, sort of going over into Hamburg. When you climb 61, if you were to look far over on the right-hand side in the the northern reaches of Hamburg, you never heard of that big tunnel. It's on the 1876 map. It shows. I first saw that years ago in the Davis Atlas of 1876, this huge dotted line for a tunnel. I didn't know there was a tunnel. It was very, very big. And
was that for the P&R or the Pennsy? Do you know?
The one that ran up to Port Clinton.
Okay.
And so I went up there. I went up there one time, and it was closed off. They had used that tunnel to grow mushrooms.
Yeah, that's where it comes because they like the dark, dank
and
environment.
It's a huge, huge tunnel, beautifully lined in brick and stone. And I was in there one time. I paid someone to open the door to get me in there, and it was so vast and so black that even with a fairly good strobe light, now we're talking about 25, 30 years ago, I got nothing.
Huh.
It was that vast and that big and that dark, I got nothing with the camera. And I haven't been back ever since that time, but it was a very interesting visit. And was there one more that, which one is, Pleasantville. Very interesting one. I just read something in an old reference the other day. Dead center, or sort of center to the right, that darkish building, that was the old creamery. I'm told that that building still stands. They covered it over, and that's now Ole Valley Seed and Feed, or whatever that place is, on the way up to Pikeville or to Loboxville. I think that's the same place. But I also read that there was a paper mill in that area years ago, and no one seems to know where that was. And I came across a reference, and I forget where I found that Yoder's paper mill sat on the site where they built the creamery. And I had never seen that in print before, and I never came across anybody who could give me an idea of where that thing was. Some of the people who live in that area, they used to call that the cup cheese factory. Over there on the left-hand side was the big Yoder home. Actually, there are a couple of Yoder homes over in the Pleasantville area, which was originally Yottershtetl. There he is, the Yoder homestead on Pikeville Road. And in the lower corner there, we have the Evangelical Church, directly across from which there is what they call the Union Cemetery, but originally it was the Yoder private burial ground. There was a Lutheran church a short distance away on the left-hand side as you face that building. Between that and the covered bridge was a Lutheran church called Independent Lutheran Church. It was one of the Alfred Krall churches. He was a very charismatic preacher of the late 1800s. He died young, but he started 3 churches. Unfortunately, all 3 are now defunct. The last one to close was the one there at Mooresville. It was at St. Timothy, something like that. It closed about maybe 5-6 years ago, but that was the last of the Reverend Kroll Lutheran churches. And the upper right-hand corner somewhere is the general store in Pleasantville with Mr. Yerger. Oh, there he is, up in the right-hand corner under the word Pleasantville. I knew Mr. Yerger, the postmaster. What I didn't realize when I used to go in there very innocently to get some postmarks and to buy a few things, that he had a trapdoor in the back of the store that went down, and they used to play cards down there, which I never realized at the time. But anyhow.
Is it Prohibition era?
No, in the 50s.
Okay.
Yeah, but anyhow, so much. It's a very interesting story about Pleasantville, and there's material there that I've never seen in print before in that Pleasantville section. Anyhow, Simon, let's switch over to you for a bit, and then we'll come back to some other things.
All right. Well, I'm pleased to say, and also I'm happy to say that in 2 more days, on October 4th, 2008, we're going to be hosting the Historical Society of Berks County, and our signature sponsor, the Reading Hospital and Medical Center, will be hosting the 4 Centuries in Berks Historic Property Tour. This year's tour, as I've told you before, is going to be better than ever. We have got some incredible properties on there. Really? Some once-in-a-lifetimes. Yeah. We have Charming Forge, rarely open to the public. We have the Charming Forge boarding house, in addition to the Peter Spiker house.
Which is incredible.
That is incredible.
Incredible.
I mean, unbelievable. George, would you say in the Peter Spiker house that the unique door hardware that they had, could have been made at Charming Forge?
That's entirely possible. I wouldn't know where else you would get something like that.
I mean, it has that primitive look to it that it would have been made at that time. Anyway, it really is going to be something special. The properties are wonderful. And again, the tour takes place on Saturday, October 4th. It begins at 9 a.m. It concludes at 4 p.m. It's drive on your own. Take the properties in the order that you want them, and spend as much time as you want at each property, but I would recommend that you limit yourself to probably a half an hour, maybe 45 minutes at each property, because there are 10 of them to see, and you're going to love them all. They really are that special. It allows the citizens of Berks, the people that take the tour, to get really a first-hand look at the historic architectural legacy that we have here in Berks County. And in addition, as I said, it's the 4 Centuries tour, so we cover the 18th, 19th, 20th, and 21st century. We've got a beautiful contemporary home that was built in 2003 that's very exciting. The price of the tickets are $22 if you purchase them in advance, and I will tell you where you can purchase them. You can pick them up at the Historical Society of Berks County at 940 Center Avenue. They're also available at Green Valley Nursery at 4610 Penn Avenue in Sinking Spring, Ebson Shades Greenhouse, 721 Park Road in Fleetwood, Hopewell Nursery at 7829 Boyertown Pike in Boyertown, as well as Boyer's Food Market at 410 North 3rd Street in Womelsdorf, Blue Spruce Market at 4401 Conrad Weiser Parkway in Womelsdorf, and also Weaver's Orchard at 40 Fruit Lane in Morgantown. So as you can see, there's going to be a convenient location to pick up tickets wherever you live in the county. Again, tickets are $22 if purchased in advance. If you buy them the day of the tour, they're $25. And while the bus is sold out, I will remind all those who are taking the bus, if they're watching this, to be at the Historical Society at 8:15. Okay, because you don't want to be late. You're going to need the full day to tour all the properties. They're that special. But it's really going to be great, and it's just shaping up to be the best tour ever, in that through today, we took a ticket count, and we've sold as many tickets in advance sales or nearly as we did for the whole tour last year. So it's quite impressive, and I think the next 2 days ticket sales are going to be pretty brisk. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and I encourage all of you who have never been on the tour to take it. It really is quite enlightening, and gives you a chance to see properties.
2 sites particularly that they would never see on their own.
Never see on their own,
No.
yeah. It's really special.
Will they be able to get something to eat along the way?
You betcha, yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that, George. You will be able to get something to eat. The way we've structured the tour is that we have Christ Lutheran Church, who that's one of the properties on the tour, that is going to be midway on the tour. And so you can go to Christ Lutheran, you know, as a rest stop, and you can, for a nominal fee, you can buy lunch there. So I encourage you all to do that. It's for a good cause, and their lunches are delicious. You said you've been to a number of their, number of their things.
Good
their
cooking.
oyster pie.
Oh, yeah.
It's really good. So anyway, 4 Centuries Tour this coming Saturday, October 4th, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m.
And the ticket price?
Ticket price, $22 in advance at the locations I mentioned earlier, $25 day of the tour.
And you get them at the Historical Society?
Yeah, you can get them at the Historical Society as well as 7 other locations throughout the county.
And we want to tell people that when they stop at Christ Lutheran or Long's Church, there at the west end of Stroudsburg, where they're going to be serving lunch, that's a very interesting church to visit. And on that site, Regina Leininger, the Indian captive during the French and Indian War, lies buried in the old cemetery, and the stone is very easily found. In the back of the church, in the back right, the parsonage was where one of the governors of Pennsylvania was born. His dad was Schultz. His dad was a preacher at the church, and Sonny Boy became governor of the state of Pennsylvania, serving from, let's see, 1823 to about 1829. I think he served 2 3-year terms. And when you go to that church, if you go there for lunch, for goodness sakes, go upstairs in the sanctuary, because as often as I visited that church, I don't know how it happened, I never looked up until we visited, was it Sunday, I guess that was.
Yes.
And they have the most incredible kerosene chandelier that has been electrified, but what a magnificent piece to see.
Crystal.
I was really taken with that, and this general construction, it's a really very large kerosene chandelier.
Didn't they say there was a twin for it in the area as well?
They said it's slightly smaller.
Slightly smaller, okay.
Slightly smaller at Schaefferstown.
Millbach.
The Millbach Cemetery, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so this is going to be an exceptional tour. Let me see. Passing. Oh, back to the passing scene. But do you want to say anything about the annual meeting?
I do. And is there time for the library?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, I would like to mention something about the annual meeting. Annual meeting will be held Thursday, October 23rd. The Historical Society will host their annual meeting, which is open to the general membership. The trustee meeting will be from 5:30 to 6:30, and afterwards there will be refreshments supplied by the Historical Society of Berks County Auxiliary. And following that, there will be Josh will have some artifacts from the museum set up, and we will also be making the award for the presentation for the Heister Award, which is done every year. So that, remember, that starts at 6:30 on October 23rd, and that's a Thursday night. Now, if we have a few minutes, I'd like to talk about something that is just a dream come true for the Historical Society. If you did not know, in 2005, the Board of Trustees of the Historical Society decided to make an investment and purchased the former M&T Branch Bank building directly behind our main location at 940 Center Avenue. Since that time, we've been raising funds for the renovation of this property so that it will become, we could transform it into the Henry Janssen Library. And this is a brand new library that that the Historical Society is going to be moving into at approximately the end of this month, October, first week in November. While we are moving into it, our library will be closed for, I would say, about 2 weeks. The existing library was going to be transformed into an exhibit area where we'll be able to show more of the artwork that never sees the light of day, and we'll be able to show some of those things that we really should be proud of and need to be on display. But the new library is going to be something special, and I brought along some pictures here to show you what the transformation of this building has been like. Again, they purchased it in 2005, and we began the restoration about 6 months ago. This has taken a little bit longer than I had anticipated, but the wait's been worth it. So that's the library, the front view of the library, and then I have some before and after photographs. There's a before photograph of the portico, the main entrance, and this is one coming up, should be the new portico that we have built. We've raised it substantially. It is now copper solid copper, and really is magnificent. From there we go into a view of the inside of the library, and that's a shot that was taken when we were doing the demo work to clean it out so that we could get a good idea, or at least the contractors could get a good idea of what it would take for the restoration. So that's what that looked like before, after we tore out the carpeting and everything. And that's another shot from the opposite side of the room after we had taken out the teller windows. And this is what it looks like now. Quite a bit of a difference. What you're seeing there, the research tables, and that those booths right there are the computer stations that we will be using. The orange that you see up there is a high-tech polycarbonate paneling that's backlit with LED lightings. This is a very green building. If you'll notice, the flooring is bamboo, a very renewable resource, and the lighting that lights up the polycarbonate is a LED lighting system that burns virtually no energy. From there, that was another, excuse me, I've got a frog in my throat. That is another picture of the other end of the research room as it looked before renovation, and that is what that same area looks like now with the reference desk in place. From there we go to, that's an area of the, where I showed you those computer stations during the renovation, and here's what it looks like after the remodeling. Skylights were added to the facility to give a very bright and open appearance. We also incorporated, and I should say we, Richard Levengood from Richard Levengood Architects, who is a trustee and the architect on this project, decided that it would be good to have skylights in here to make it brighter, more airy. But we also incorporated that truss work that you see there, and really adds a certain dimension to the building. And that's the before, and that's the effect of the skylights afterwards. Quite handsome. It's very dramatic. We decided on this contemporary theme because when you look at the facilities that the Historical Society has, right now our main location is a classic example of early Federal. We have the Hendel House at 746 Center Avenue, which is vintage, beautiful Victorian. And now you come into our library facility, the Henry Janssen Library, which is very dramatic, 21st century, an organization that's moving into the 21st century. So that's what that looks like. And then there's a forward shot of the stack room. When it was in the original building, it was the teller booths, and now it is going to be the stack room, which is where we store all our volumes of books. That's what it looked like during the remodeling, and that's what it opened up to after the teller windows were removed and the remodeling was completed. And then that's it. But it is truly a dramatic building. George, when I first started working at the Historical Society, George told me something, I believe Dr. Grafe told you, George, that 40 of the major family names in the United States trace their roots directly back to Berks County. And every day the Historical Society Library hosts 8 to 10 patrons who come from all 50 states and around the world. We've had people from Germany, France, Italy, all over to use our records. And in many cases, this is the first impression that they get of Berks County, the Historical Society. And it's a good impression. It really puts the best foot forward of Berks County and lets them see what the legacy and the history that we share here in this county. And we're very proud, the Historical Society, with our library and museum, is very proud to be able to do that. And that's our mission, and we relish in doing that. So I encourage all of you, when the library opens up, to stop by and take a look for yourself. It is truly remarkable.
It certainly is. Thank you, Simon.
Thank you.
The Passing Scene Volume 16 contains 2 separate accounts of one of the great railroad disasters that occurred in Pennsylvania in the 19th century. The Exeter Station Railroad Disaster of 1899, and why Exeter Station disappeared from maps and railroad timetables, and Lorraine was substituted. Mr. Blay has an account, one of the 2 that appear in the book, in Volume 16. Can we have part of that account, Joshua?
Certainly, George. Wonderful article here. It's titled "A Frightful Railroad Disaster, the Awful Catastrophe to an Excursion Train on the Reading Railroad, 29 Lives Lost." Exeter, Pennsylvania, May 16, 1899. In the most horrible railroad accident since the day 3 years ago when 100 excursionists were hurled into eternity upon the meadows of Atlantic City. 29 persons, also excursionists, were crushed and mangled almost beyond recognition upon a sharp curve at this village, Exeter, on the Friday night of May 12th. Driven by a terrible head of steam at the speed of 60 miles an hour, a special upon the Reading Road carrying a crowded load of passengers from the Hartranft Monument unveiling at Harrisburg crashed headlong into the rear of a regular express train standing below the signal box. Somebody blundered. This is verbatim, by the way. Somebody blundered. There was no warning light, no toot of a whistle. Wearied by a day of sightseeing, the passengers, crowded closely together, were endeavoring to rest. As it rushed into the weighty express, the engine of the special crushed and tore its way through a Pullman car. In turn, the Pullman telescoped the car ahead, mangling and pulling limb from limb the reposing travelers. The impact was as severe upon the special as upon the express. Its cars were hurled from the track down a steep bank, tangled, twisted bits of iron and wood. The night was intensely dark. As the few aboard either train who were not injured scrambled from the ruins, they could see little more than an indistinct pile of debris from every niche and corner, which came shrieks and groans. The heroism of a few among those survivors will live forever. Digging into the heap, they began to work at extricating the dead and the wounded. Women's skirts and men's coats were made into bandages to staunch the flow of blood. With Reading 6 miles distant north and Birdsboro 4 miles south, and not a physician in Exeter, it was before an hour before a relief train arrived, and not until was the real work of rescue began. Upon the train came a corps of doctors and nurses from the Reading hospitals. A wrecking crew was also aboard, and it was not until a long while after the windlass of the traveling crane began to creak and the wreckage to move that the true horror of the disaster became apparent. Then, twisted about one another, their limbs crushed into a pulp and intermingling, the victims were removed one by one. Very sad subject. They were taken to one side of the road and laid upon rows upon the grass. The injured, broken-limbed, and torn were carried to the relief train as fast as they were taken from the debris. When one train was loaded, it was hurried away to Reading, and another train took its place until 50 persons were treated in the local hospitals there. The greater portion of the dead were from Norristown, and to that city carloads of the victims were sent. Their arrival was the first news that Norristown had of the wreck. The coming of dawn found many of the dead and injured still in the tangled heap. On the evening of Saturday, the exact loss was for the first time ascertained. Then also it was first learned that following in the footsteps of death came human vultures, ghouls, despoilers of the victims. From the bodies that had been wrestled, gold watches, rings, money, valuables of every sort. Scarcely 1 in 10, while the nurses and physicians were working upon the wounded, escaped the touch of the scavenger. In Norristown, the wreck was treated as a personal calamity by every individual. The city council met and declared that Wednesday, the day set apart for most of the funerals, should be a day of mourning throughout the town. Shops were closed and banks suspended business. The lines of hearses were heaped high with flowers. Some of the most respected citizens were in the caskets. In Pottstown and in Phoenixville, where others of the victims had resided, the same aspect of public grief was evident. The cause of the accident remains to be discovered. Among the witnesses subpoenaed are some of the most prominent residents of the state, including United States Senator Penrose. His escape seems an act of providence. He had been in the Pullman car of the express, but stepped forward to a car to have a smoke with a friend. Then the crash occurred. And if some of you, actually probably most of you, won't recognize Senator Penrose, but I found a quote of his, I'm sure many will sound familiar. He often said that public offense is the last refuge of a scoundrel.
Ah, the good old days.
Yes.
I bet that's the only instance where smoking saved anybody's life.
That's for sure. We didn't bring those pictures along, did we, at Exeter Station?
I actually have them here as rough computer printouts. No, actually just the wreck itself, George, I'm afraid.
Do you have the picture of the wreck?
Yeah, I have a couple of pictures of the wreck here.
I don't know whether they can put those.
I don't know if they'll come up well on the camera or not.
Maybe a bit higher.
There we go. This is back in the days of wooden passenger cars.
Yeah.
When they,
Oh,
but maybe that was right.
I think you're right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that was right.
You would slide off those seats the other way.
This is back in the day of wooden passenger cars on railway trains, and when you would have accidents like this, if you think of a telescope collapsing upon itself, the cars would literally go into each other, and if you're sitting in the seat there, guess what happens to you?
Ouch.
It's not a pretty sight.
You take the seat in front of you.
They used to say, there's another picture here, they used to say that the safest place on a train in those days was in the middle of the train, in the middle of the middlemost car. You had the most chance of success of surviving an accident. You could see the colossal damage done to the train there.
Now, for the benefit of the people who know Lorraine, which is the present name, I checked something I thought was very interesting. I checked the postal records, and in 1900, Exeter Station Post Office was changed to Lorraine.
Where did that name come from, George?
What's that, Lorraine?
Yeah.
I haven't the slightest idea. Everyone misspells it, by the way. It's L-O-R-A-N-E.
But spell with 2 R's?
2 R's?
No, L-O-R-A-N-E, Lorraine.
Okay.
Yeah, but everyone misspells it, as you said.
So you didn't take it from like the Alsace-Lorraine area? Okay.
So, yeah, and we have a picture, that last picture that you held up, I only noticed today when I sent that to Joshua that there was a clue in there to the exact location of where that car was standing on the tracks. Can we get that one more time if that's possible? On Joshua's.
There we go.
You see back there in the tree on the right-hand side, there's a smokestack, and I don't know, it's sort of, that's it. That's the smokestack for the Exeter Distillery.
Oh, yeah.
There was a distillery back at Exeter Station, and now that building is long since gone, but there is a building back there on the site of the distillery, so that that tells you exactly where that picture was taken. They had backed away from the station, backing down towards Birdsboro. But those are the only. Have you ever seen any other pictures of that?
No,
I've never seen another picture.
I wanted to add, although only 29 was a lot for that time, of course, but had this been in the winter, the accident would have been far worse, because if you had the wooden coaches at that time, they were heated with coal stoves at either end of the car. So there were a number of accounts of train wrecks in the wintertime. Whoever survives the initial smash-up gets burned alive, literally, from the coal stoves that overturned. Technology improved and accidents weren't as bad.
Well, the other account that I have tells about one fellow who was sort of flung against the engine and he roasted to death.
Ouch.
Yes, it was rather nasty. I have here Exeter Station, also known as Lorraine. As you saw, the pictures that we just showed are the only ones that I know to exist, which is why I went after them for volume 16. Exeter Station conjured up visions of such unbelievable horror to railroad passengers that the name of the village and train stop was changed to Lorraine. And that happened, I think, in 1900. It happened at Christmas time of 1900. Another unusual feature of the New Passing Scene book is a 15-page section that lists all the business people of Berks County outside the city of Reading, arranged by their closest post office. This rare 1877 compilation contains 1,600 persons and their occupations. For anyone doing research on old-time Berks County, this is really a very, very interesting section of the book. I don't know whether you can come in on this. This was the first page of that section. And it lists the people who patronize, who go to those post offices to get their mail, and it tells you what they do. I looked at these today, and I began to smile because I was wondering how many people today would recognize all these post offices and these locations. I'm going to read a couple of them for you. These were the places, for instance, Albany. Now, you know, Albany was, of course, in Albany Township, and they had a post office called Albany Center at one time in an old store building that today is being used for a residence. Albany had Davis Heinley, hotel man, William Heinley, general store, and W and M Levan, millers and tanners. Here are the post offices for which they have, Bechtelsville has an extraordinarily large number of business people, which really surprised me for the size of Bechtelsville. Alsace Post Office. I wonder how many people know where Alsace Post Office was. Hint, there's a hotel there today. Amity, Baumstown, Bechtelsville, Beckersville. A lot of people from Beckersville, and that surprised me. Burnville has about 50. Bethel, Birdsboro, Blandon, Bower Station, which of course is Bowers, Boyertown, Broomfeldville.
Huh. Where's that, George?
Broomfeldville is Weavertown.
Weavertown.
Yeah, Weavertown had Broomfeldville Post Office.
That's where they had the cement factory, right?
No, that was Evansville.
Evansville.
Brower, Union Township. Centerport, we know. Clayton.
Where's that?
Eastern Berks. Clayton, I'm surprised, they have about 18 people for Clayton, and it's right on Route 100 heading north. Actually, the road sort of wound around the post office, so that if you want to go to the post office, you couldn't possibly miss it. Colebrookdale, Little Lowly. Crosskill Mills. Again, there are like 20 people listed there. General store, hotel, blacksmith, cabinet maker. Cumru Post Office. Any of you know where the Colonial Bowling Alley used to be in the Lancaster Pike,
sure.
And the 5 Mile House? Huh? You went up that hill heading for the 5 Mile House, and there's a house halfway up that hill, and across the steps it says Cumru. And that was the post office in that general section. Crosskill Mills, Dale, Dryville, Eagle Point, Exeter, East Berkeley. Any idea where East Berkeley is? Well, in order to visit that post office, you need a snorkel.
East of Berkeley?
Oh, it's under Onalawney?
Yes.
Okay.
Fritztown, Greshville, Grimsville, Fredericksville, Geiger's Mill, Hereford, Hill Church, Heaster's Mill. Heaster's Mill was near the Goober Wagon Works. Oh. There was an old mill back there. Heaster's Mill. There was a post office there. I took pictures of that inside and out before it was taken away for the Blue Marsh Dam project. Hummels, Brecknock Township, Hummels Store or Hummels Post Office. Joanna Furnace had a post office. Nowers Cricks Mill, long since gone. Landis or Landisville, the closest thing would be Landis Store Hotel today. Let me see. Limekill is listed. Lower Burn. Lower Burn, where was Lower Burn? Well, Lower Burn's post office was changed to Obold, and Obold was the post office for Mount Pleasant. Lower Heidelberg. Let me see, any odd ones here for the people. Mones, M-O-H-N apostrophe S. Moulton, right. Monterey. Monterey had 2 hotels, and they burned, and both of them burned.
One of them had Great Clams Casino.
Oh yes,
no, that was
yes, they did. Monocacy Station and Monocacy, unfortunately, Monocacy Station has been closed, and Monocacy was that just closed?
Wednesday.
Mm-hmm. And of course, the old post office for Monocacy was called Umstead along 724 near the Monocacy Elementary School. Mountain was the northernmost post office in Berks County, and there were slate quarries in there. That would be in Albany Township, really way up there. Let me see, anything else? Pikes Township Post Office, Pine Iron Works. Pine Forge still has a post office, although I'm told that it's in tenuous circumstances as far as longevity. Shanesville closed, I remember when that closed. Scarlett's Mill. Let me see, South Evansville, again, out with your snorkel. Trexler.
These are snow?
Well, Trexler was still around. There was a cute little gas station there with 1 pump. And I was, again, looking at some things. I'm going to spare the audience this, but I found this fascinating. I have a listing here of every post office that existed in Berks County from the beginning until about 1970. And it's amazing what post offices existed one time. Some of them are even to me, something of a mystery. Like Driversville. Driversville. Existed from 1869 to 1870. Then the mail was sent to Hummel's store. That was another post office.
Hummel's store.
Hummel's store. That Girl Scout was a camp down here. Used to be down in that general section. The Girl Scout camp.
I don't know.
It was in the Brecknock Township area. Yeah. Well, let me just check something here.
I have a couple things, George.
Okay, go ahead.
Some time.
Go ahead.
There's an item here on the floor I'd love to share with the
Oh, that's
audience,
neat.
if possible.
Yeah, that's neat.
And before we get to that, actually, I just want to remind viewers that upcoming our first Saturday program is actually going to be on your toes on this one. It's not actually the first Saturday this month. It's actually going to be on October 11th because of the 4 Centuries Tour this coming Saturday. But the October 1st Saturday is going to be on the second Saturday at 10 o'clock, October 11th. And our speaker is Miss Sandy Steve, notable bearers of Allenbach Cemetery. Let's show you what's here on the floor here. Mentioned in our August show when I was last on the show that we're working on an exhibit opening of March of next year, 2009, on the Berks County home front during World War I and World War II, and we're still looking for items that are home front related. So if you have the items, we have going to have a wagon that was used to bring horse manure up to the top of Mount Penn for the Victory Gardens up there.
Have they washed it out?
Thoroughly cleaned, thoroughly cleaned. One item that will be, I can guarantee you, will be in the exhibit is what you see right here on the monitor there. Obviously you can see 1918, 2018 on there. Below that is a piece of paper typewritten, and it's a little hard to read on the monitor, so I'll read it here for you. Let's see here. Not to be opened before November 11th, 2018. Contents: Reading, Philadelphia, and New York papers, circulars, posters, notices, etc. Date November 11th, 1918, Peace Day. Given by W.M. Zeckman and Frank W. Clark.
Zeckman, was it William Zeckman, did you say?
Yeah, William Zeckman.
He was involved with the county, wasn't he county secretary, county superintendent of schools for a while. He was related to Marie Grafe.
Okay. So while we will hold ourselves back and not open this before 2018, keep your calendars free for the next 10 years. 10 years.
We'll not punch that day too. We'll make a day of it.
10 years and 1 month. Come to the Historical Society November 11th, 2018. But look for this object. It's a really unique. I'm very anxious to see what's inside of it. I know some museums from time to time with time capsules have X-rayed to see what the contents of the packages are. But
don't spoil the surprise.
Well, that's so spoils the surprise.
We do have a time capsule on our front lawn too.
Yes, we do. We also have a third one, a more modern plastic bucket time capsule downstairs. I'll have to check the date on this one. But look for this item here. And if you have anything you'd like to loan for the World War I or the World War II home front exhibit, please give me a call at 610-375-4375. Be very, very happy to talk with you about any loans you'd like to lend us. George.
I found some good negatives for that exhibit. I was looking for something else and came across these World War II. I think they were 1942 or 1943 negatives. Victory Gardens in West Reading. It showed some people darkening the room. One fellow with a candle sitting at a small radio receiver. I'm sure many of you people remember, I'm sure there are people out there watching who have a photograph of the airplane spotters' shacks that were at various places in Berks County. My father used to be an airplane spotter up at State Hill. They had one of those things, those little buildings where you went in there to spot for airplanes. So I found about maybe 20 negatives of on the home front, World War II, I think 1943. Very interesting ones.
And we'll have some items from the Civilian Defense Corps and also the Army Observer Corps, like you mentioned, of your father being a spotter.
Yeah.
We have some items from them already, but of course love to see anything else that people may have at home.
Yes. I brought a few slides, and it'll be a surprise to us all, because I haven't seen that box of slides for about 25 years. So let's see what we have in there. Aha. Well, we all recognize this. Mm-hmm. Do you recognize that, Sam?
Oh my God, what am I thinking? You know, George, I don't know that I do.
That's the Historical Society of Berks County.
Oh, on 4th
Street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bought in 1916.
They took that away when they enlarged for WEEU, I guess. That occupies that corner. That was a very handsome building.
It's a great looking building. God, I can't believe they tore that down.
I had the original sign that would have hung above the doorway in my office.
That's right. That was on North 4th Street. I took that picture in 1962 with Ansco film, and I see that it's beginning to shift a bit in color.
Yeah, a bit.
But I took that in 62.
What caused it to get those pink hues?
Old age. Strange things happen with time.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, I took that in 62. Good heavens. My goodness. That's been a while back.
46.
Next, oops, I had the clicker here. Oh, that was, let me think. That was a Muhlenberg home. That was at 4th and Court.
Wow.
That was on the northwest corner of 4th and Court. That was, and then it was converted into a lodge hall. My father used to go to meetings there. That was the Knights of Malta temple. And I remember my mother used to go to meetings there also. And they had the biggest fireplace. When you went in the front door and turned to the left, that was the big living room. That fireplace was so big you could have parked a VW inside of it. It was the biggest fireplace I've ever seen in my life. That was the Knights of Malta temple. Originally a Muhlenberg home at 4th. That was quite a home.
That's beautiful.
In its day.
When was it built?
In the 50s.
1850s.
Yeah. Big place. And then right across the street was the old headquarters for the Reading Eagle before they built the new plant on Penn Street. Oh my word. Look what's happening to those. Is that my slide?
Is that window fitting? No, that's not.
No. That was the parochial school for Trinity Lutheran Church at 6th and Washington Street. The Trinity would be on the right-hand side, and that would have been on the left-hand. I cannot believe what's happening to that slide. Funny story. Mr. Deininger was the last teacher for the parochial school in Trinity Lutheran Church's parochial school, and that building was willed to his two sons who didn't get along. One wanted to put a new building on the corner, and the other one wanted to retain that building. So they did the most logical thing.
Tear it down.
No.
What?
They sawed it in half.
I was going to say
They sawed it in half, and they built. The fellow built the building on the corner, and then later on they took away the part on the left-hand side and put the building that's there today. But that building was actually sawed in half. Notice that there's a gas lamp on the corner.
Yeah.
You know, that Bill Hintz, as a very young man, our good friend who passed away several years ago, as a very young man, had the route from Penn Street out Perkiomen Avenue lighting the gas lamps. He was a gas lamp lighter. Bill Hintz, who had Hintz's bookstore.
Yeah.
Good member of the Historical Society.
Real good member.
A great fellow.
I was at a museum in England last week, and they had a talk about the old lamps, and they had actually working gas lamps.
Did they? Well, we used to have that in our Historical Society at the front. That was a gas lamp that worked. Isn't that a wonderful home?
Right.
Just look at that place. Any idea where that was? Isn't that magnificent?
It is.
That was at Bell Telephone is at 4th and Washington. They tore that down. That was Wilson, the Wilson Goggle.
That's right.
That was Wilson's house. As a matter of fact, before they tore that down, that was headquarters for Bell Telephone in Reading. They had all kinds of wires running into that building. But isn't that magnificent?
Beautiful building, it really is.
That's magnificent. That was at 4th and...
What kind of trees are those in front? Probably too hard to tell.
A little hard to tell. I have a feeling that they're gone.
I'm sure.
And what street, where was that located?
But the Bell Telephone building, is that, they still own that Bell Telephone, right below the Abraham Lincoln?
You said 4th and... Is that what you said?
That would be at 4th and Washington, right? Yeah,
Wow.
sure. 4th and Washington on the corner. It would be on the northeast corner of 4th and Washington. They tore that down for Bell Telephone building. Some of the people watching the show remember when they had operators sitting in that building at 4th and Washington on the corner. I would imagine the telephone company still owns that building. I don't know. But wasn't that magnificent? That was the Wilson house. that was one of the greatest homes in Berks County. You know, that rivaled Sterling for sheer splendor and unique architecture. Yeah. Well, another one of the fine buildings that we had was the old post office.
That's the building on the right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's the road they closed. That's not...
yeah, that used to be a through street at one time. And our puppy used to be in the cigar store. Mm-hmm. There on the right-hand side. That was the old post office building. Where the present post office building is. And then they added that little annex. Where that little annex was, you see that road going through there? Mm-hmm. It was an open street that ran from 5th up to the alley behind the post office.
Well, what's the street on the right? Isn't that Court?
No, that's the old through street. Right?
No, that's the old through street. Court Street would be off to the right, another half block.
Okay.
And this is Washington there on the left-hand side.
Right.
And that's the Berkshire Hotel, was the Berkshire Hotel.
Right. It was a beautiful building for the post office.
Okay.
That's a rare picture. That's across from the Wyomissing Club at Walnut and 5th. That was a stagecoach stop and a hotel. They tore that down to make way for Reading Federal, the bank, which I'm not sure whether there's a bank functioning there or not, but that was one of the oldest buildings of Reading and was a stagecoach stop. Okay, I think it's about that time. Tell your friends about our program, which is on live the first Wednesday of each month at 7. Thanks to program participants Gloria Jean Miser, Sime Bertlett, and Joshua Blay. I'm George M. Miser IX, your host and president of the Historical Society of Berks County for the last decade. We look forward to having you join us again on November the 5th, the first Wednesday in November at 7 o'clock. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.
The Historical Society on BCTV is supported in part by the Highlands at Wyomissing.
Do you like to go out to eat? I bet you do. And so does BCTV. That's why we hope that you'll join us for the Oktoberfest auction to bid on great gift certificates to local restaurants and entertainment venues. I'm Marcia Fortley, co-host of Berks Vibe and host of Sights and Sounds of Historic Berks County. Join me and my co-host George Audi Wednesday, October 15th for all the dining and entertainment fun and excitement. Don't forget, this year's Oktoberfest starts at a new time, 7 p.m. at the Fairground Square Mall. We hope to see you there.